Hi everyone, and welcome back. Week 4, business models for sustainability. We've spent the last few weeks really building some foundational or building block knowledge for sustainability. So we had a bit of an introduction to sustainability and sustainable development. We looked at concepts of stakeholders and stakeholder mapping, and we looked at how the stakeholder views might differ from a pure shareholder view, although of course shareholders are primary stakeholders in any private enterprise. And then we looked at ethics, governance, and corporate social responsibility. So business ethics, how businesses are managed, corporate governance, and the obligations and responsibilities of corporations. So this week we're moving on to business models. How does this thing called sustainability start to become integrated into business models, and what are some of the more prolific or applied business models for sustainability that have emerged? So this week we look at a few different concepts. We look at something called industrial ecology, where industrial ecology is essentially a circular concept where businesses collaborate, they work together, and waste streams from one business are used in another business's production process. So we may see byproducts from the building industry or from the wine industry being used as an input into products for the food industry, or indeed a range of industries. So industrial ecology has this notion that there really is little or no waste, that waste is used by one business, or waste that is generated by one business is used by another, and there's some very well-known examples of this, particularly in Europe. Then we touch upon natural capitalism, this notion that that capitalism does not solely relate to financial matters, but also to environmental matters, and this notion of natural capital is explored. We also look at a couple of design concepts, in particular the cradle-to-cradle design. So cradle-to-cradle design is becoming ever more important, where products are designed not only with the consumer in mind, but are also designed with the disposal and end-of-life components of those products in mind. So already we're seeing the European Union mandate that cars made in Europe have to have large percentages of recycled metals and plastics included in them, so that we're seeing reuse, and that these cars need to be able to be easily dismantled and then reused. So people thinking about what happens at the other end of a car's life cycle. The same's happening particularly with white goods, where we're seeing more and more pressure on producers to have take-back programs and to think about how they can reuse that product in the production cycle. We also touch upon the natural step. The natural step, a model that came out of Scandinavia, that thinks about the resources that we take out from under the ground and the emissions that we generate, and trying to minimize those impacts. And we look at other models for sustainability. So again, your readings, the textbook as always, doing a great job. The Kallenborg Symbiosis website I've referred you to. That's a great example of a very well-known industrial ecology project. And then in a more applied and real sense, I ask you to look at interface carpets. Interface carpets have been much lauded and much awarded. And Ray Anderson, the former CEO of Interface Carpets. I say former CEO because sadly he passed away a couple of years ago. But Ray was a man who was way ahead of his time. 20 plus years ago, he was considering how he could re-engineer Interface Carpets into an organization that made little or no environmental impact in the course of making carpets. And you'll see from the website, which I ask you to look at later, how Interface have re-engineered their business to source their energy from primarily renewable sources, and also to have totally revamped their product and marketing approach, where rather than selling carpets that invariably went to landfill, Interface more and more leases carpets and then commits to taking those carpets back and recycling them in total and reusing them as new products. So like a really interesting example of how a business has been re-engineered. A couple of academic readings for you that are recommended. One looking at cradle-to-cradle design in terms of green engineering, which is a very interesting article, and then a seminal work from Amory Lovins et al. With a roadmap for natural capitalism, which is a really interesting little read, so I encourage you to do that. In terms of activities for the week, I'm asking you to look at an interview with Ray Anderson and to have a look at the Interface Carpet website to get a sense of how a business model for sustainability has been integrated into the practices of Interface. Then the case study focuses on CSL and something a bit closer to home, and talks about eco-efficiency and sustainability. And then in your discussion forum, I ask you to put into practice some theories and principles that we cover off in the text and in the videos. So again, the objective of the week is to really give you a bit of a lightning overview of how sustainability is materializing in very specific and focused business models, that these business models are not flash in the pan recent. Some of them have been established for decades, and some of these practices now are being more widely adopted by a range of organizations and a range of household names. So it's a very interesting time in terms of how sustainability is morphing into business models. As always, I hope you enjoy the week and the readings, and look forward to hearing from you on the discussion forums and your thoughts on some of these business models and their applicability more widely. Thanks a lot.